Today I'd like for us to go back just for a moment to the book of Esther. You don't have to pick it up and read it. You're probably familiar with the story. Esther was a Jewish woman, and she was living in the Persian kingdom. And the lead or first wife of the Persian emperor displeased her husband. So, seeing the disrespect that she gave him, he decided that he would do a nationwide search to find a replacement for this wife. And Esther, an unknown person that we would not know about unless we happen to read the scripture, was chosen as the new queen. And then one of the Persian emperor's subjects began to persecute her people. He began to set traps for them and to make sure that they would be eliminated. And everything looked dire and grim until she went in to see the king. And she hesitated at first, because you cannot, in that day, you cannot go in and see the emperor, the king, unless he asks you to come. There's no knocking on the door and he says, enter. She had no such invitation from the emperor. And so she was faltering a bit, and her uncle Mordecai said to her, Esther, you must do this. The fate of your people lies in your hands. So, who knows? For such a time as this, God has placed you here. And she goes in unbidden. He says, what is it that you need me to know? She tells him, and the political official, Haman, the one who had set all the traps for the Jews, he himself suffered that fate. So this morning I'd like for us to think about what God is calling us to do as individuals and as a church. And I'd like to set it in the context of this. It's hard to be at an institution of higher education for the better part of 16 years and not learn some things. What did I learn while teaching at Tennessee Wesleyan? I learned that one of the things that many students did, Uncle Jack, when they got to school, they didn't intend to do it. It wasn't in their plans, but what they ended up doing was saying, okay, I grew up in such and such church. I sat on such and such pew. And by the way, you're all sitting in the same seats you were in last week, with the exception of the outliers over here, who move around just a little bit. Okay? We're all creatures of habit. And I learned that one of the things that happens is that young people, when they get to college and there's nobody saying to them, honey, are you going to church this morning? Son, you need to get up. But Dad, I stayed up late last night playing my video game or my computer game. That's all right. You've got a commitment to church. Let's go. There's nobody to do that. And so they exercised that freedom by sleeping in. by not participating in activities that would nourish their souls. And it's a natural thing. It is part of the process where Jennings decides, is this faith that I heard preached and taught, and those Bible verses that I memorized, is it mine or is it not? That leads some of them to begin to doubt, to question whether or not what they learned in Sunday school and church is really the truth. There was an old adage that I used to hear. When you're a freshman in college, you are convinced that you know exactly what life is about. By the time you're a sophomore, you're beginning to think that life is full of confusion. By the time you're a junior, you've decided that everybody's an idiot. By the time you're a senior, given those 4 years of maturity and growth, they've decided that this part of faith that I was raised in is mine. Let me tell you what that means. That means that oftentimes when people are in a school and in a situation, they're on the struggle bus. I had one young lady tell me, you know, I wasn't raised in a drinking family. I don't have anything against it, but I wasn't raised in a drinking family. But now, here I am on an athletic scholarship to this university, and every one of my teammates wants to go up to Cotton Eye Joe's in Knoxville. What do? I'm the only person who doesn't want to go. It's not my thing. Yes, she probably ended up being the designated driver. Yes, but still to not go kind of sets her as an outcast in a social group. I've heard people struggle with doubts. I've seen people enter into relationships and suffer the heartbreak of the loss of that relationship. Now, what does all of this have to do with us? Well, obviously, this coming Thursday, we're hosting the Young Women's, the T-Dub Women's Lacrosse team. But I think that with that hosting, there is an opportunity. First, who knows? Who knows? May I say it one more time? Who knows? For such a time as this, God has placed us in their lives. I remember seeing the video of John Kennedy speaking at Rice University and setting forth his plans for the next decade. This was 1961. He is speaking and he says, "We shall go to the moon. We shall go to the moon at the end of this decade, or by the end of this decade, not because it's easy, but because it's hard and it demands the very best that we have to offer." You know, that challenge, along with his inaugural challenge, go ahead. Some of you were living at that time. In fact, Ruth Ann was probably a young woman. Remember what his inaugural challenge was? Go ahead, Ruth Ann.
It's not what you can do for the country, but what the country can do for you. It's something that.
That's right. I see you're nodding your head. You remember it. Ask not what your country can do for you. But ask instead what you can do for your country. Now let's be frank. Will these young women ever darken the doors of our church? Yep, Thursday. Will these young women, will they ever make it a regular practice to be in our congregation? Talk to me. Give me that's right. Mm-hmm. What's your best guess, Teddy?
Say that again.
What do you think? I know, we've already got it. I don't know. What do you think? If you were in Vegas and betting, thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Didn't have to say a word. Thank you. Yeah, they're young adults. They're probably not going to get up on the one day that they get to sleep in, or the one day after they worked late, or the morning after they went out and had a good time the night before. Okay? They may never choose to become an active participant in our church. You know, sometimes, that's right, Riley. Yeah. Let me ask, and this is a rhetorical question. Do we only do things around here because it benefits us? Thank you, Felicia. We do not. When we give to the victims of Helene or Milton, when we give to those in need, there's a decent chance that we'll never see the results of that. But who does see it and who does use it? That's right, Jack. God does. So, it's a fairly straightforward opportunity. We're giving you a chance to pray. And to pray in a structured way. My preferred type of prayer right now is prayer that takes place when I'm behind the wheel of an automobile. What about you? What is your preferred type of prayer? Really, I'm asking. What is your preferred practice of prayer? Come on, talk to me. What is your preferred practice of prayer? Oh, I know you all pray. I can see Cynthia back there, her smile on her face, but her arms are crossed. I'm not going to answer, I'm not going to answer, I'm not going to answer. So what is our preferred type? Some of us say prayers before we go to bed. Some of us might get out of bed and kneel first thing. Maybe in the shower. Oh, I guess I'm the only one that thinks that the shower is a wonderful opportunity to pray. It is. Especially when you're singing at the top of your voice.
You do too.
So, what's that?
We're riding around in the truck.
Riding around the truck. All this is it's a structured way, an intentional way of saying, for this period of time, for the spring, will you please take advantage of the structure? Each day you have a scripture that you're going to look at briefly. Each day you're asked to meditate on that scripture and say, what does God seem to be saying to me? And then afterwards, you have a printed prayer that you can pray out loud or silently. And you just pray that prayer and put your lacrosse player's name in there. Now, the way we've got it divided is they're going to be, each pair is going to have 3 students. It's not going to be one-on-one. It's going to be 3 students. So, Pam, you're just simply coming along and you're praying for this student and this student and this student. You're just simply inserting their name and thinking about them and praying for them. And you're praying about specific things. integrity, wisdom, purity, love, persistence. These are things you're praying for. So, as we are thinking about praying in this structured way, remember that this can be an opportunity, kind of sneaking around the back door. This can be an opportunity for you to pray the same thing for yourself. Now, I understand that some of us feel left out. Do you realize that I've got a stack of books in there in my office now? While you and Grandma were doing something, I didn't crash your party at Sunday school. While you and Grandma were doing something, I brought a whole stack of books in. Did you know that you too could be transformed in your thinking and in your walk with God by simply saying, Mom, can I borrow your book today?
Read Harry Potter.
You what? Don't what?
I'd rather read Harry Potter.
One more time?
I'd rather read Harry Potter.
You see, I'm saying that this is an opportunity for us to be the hands and feet of Jesus as we think about and care for others, but also as we're thinking about ourselves. All right, so let's talk about the gorilla in the room. Since I got here, or before I got here, there was an understanding that there was some type of desire on our part as a church to leave the United Methodist Church. We had all the bells and whistles. We had all of the things in process. And then the Judicial Council came down last Tuesday or a week ago and said, we're sorry, but this process that you are planning to use does not fit with what's going on in the Book of Discipline. Okay? So, what I'm suggesting is not that we don't think about that or think about the disappointment or think about how our desires are frustrated, but rather, for the past 3 or 4 years, our United Methodist Church has been, again, on the struggle bus as people try to decide what's best for them and their congregations. Agreed? Okay? Let me ask a simple question. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but let me ask a simple question. Where's our focus in that type of activity? Naturally so, it's on ourselves. It has to be. We've got processes. We've got things we need to think about. It is on ourselves. But I would like for us to think not just about the spring and the opportunity to do something with the women's lacrosse team, but I'd like for us to think about ways that we individually and corporately can have our focus outward. This is a wonderful opportunity. There will be others coming our way. Tilly, did you say, Pam, you said something about Savannah, is that correct? Savannah is sick. How many of us are here today? Yeah, you count.
23.
How many?
23. 23.
What can 23 people do very practically for a class of 23 students that Savannah is teaching? Have we asked her? I have. And she says, I believe she said there's something about backpacks or backpack fees or that type of thing. We could step up and be reaching out to one of our church members who comes in and says, it isn't easy all the time in this class. Anybody heard her talk about it? What does she say, Ben?
You got 30-some kids and they all come from different variety of homes and some
parents support, some don't.
yes, some of them's got 2 parents and some of them have 1 parent and some of them don't care. So Savannah's being their mother.
Here's what I'm suggesting. There are opportunities for us as a church to be intentional about, for this time, to turn our focus outward. It's not that we haven't had it already. We do have it already. It's already there. It's been in practice. But I'm saying, can we be intentional about it as a church to take our focus outward and say, how can we help? Let me conclude with this. Many of you are probably thinking, well, that was a different kind of sermon today because we didn't get a whole lot of mention about Jesus or that type of thing, and I understand that. But I do want to let you in on a secret. Jesus did say, it is more blessed to...
Give.
What's that?
Give.
Can you say it a little more louder?
Well, it sounds loud to me. Give.
His whole head is reverberating. It's more blessed to give than to receive. As we give to others, whether it be in prayer, whether it be in gift cards, as we're going to dispense on Thursday, did you know that one of our church members heard that some of the girls were not going to be able to go home for Thanksgiving? And we can't do a Thanksgiving dinner. Nobody is doing it catering-wise and so forth. So one person said, why don't we give them gift cards, $20 to Cracker Barrel, so that they can have the turkey and dressing and the Thanksgiving meal. You know how that came about? Because we were simply talking about Thanksgiving. So let's be intentional. Intentional about how we take advantage of either an opportunity to do something with the lacrosse team, or if we're doing something with Savannah and her class, or if we're seeking to bless these two. How might we be intentional about blessing these two? Really?
Can I get one of those?
How, what?
Can I get one of those $20 Cracker Barrel gift cards?
I'll ask you about it later. My hearing isn't the best today. I'm asking us to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, with Jesus, and think about ways that we can be intentional. Why? Because for such a time as this, God may very well have placed us where we are with what we have.